Sounds good.
Okay, going live. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our live events training today. Apologies for getting started a little late here. We had a small snafu on our end, but for all of you on, glad that you could join. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So feel free, so this is a live event. If you've attended one of these in the past, it's a little bit different than a standard Teams meeting. We'll interact with you all through Q&A. And so if you have any questions, right now or as the presentation goes on, go ahead and submit your questions through that Q&A and we'll address them in real time. All right. So topic today is live events, and we're going to be scheduling live events in Teams. There's actually a couple different ways that you can schedule live events. We'll be focusing on Teams as a tool to set up and use live events today. So this is not like an introduction to Teams course, it's to kind of set expectations with everyone. We're going to focus on this capability called live events, which you can use to broadcast out to thousands of people. So we're actually using live events for this meeting today, so we can have thousands of people on this call right now if we have the interest. So that's what we're using today, and that's what we're going to show you how to use in your organizations as well. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end, but as mentioned, just pop any questions that you have in. Just to let you know the schedule, we're hosting these sessions daily, or at least almost daily. So today is the live events topic. If you're interested in any of the other topics listed on the screen, you're welcome to join. So let's see, tomorrow looks like we're having office hours. Monday and Tuesday, we're going to be having hosting fundamentals, so like Teams 101 sessions, and then we have a new session on applications next week, which we're really excited to offer. And then intermediate is more advanced Teams capabilities as well. So today is live events, but there are other topics if interested. All right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so when we talk about meetings in Microsoft 365 and Office 365, whether you're using Teams or Skype or whatever, there's really two types of meetings that are available, okay? Meeting number one is over on the left here. This is like a standard Teams meeting that you have probably, if you're using Teams at all so far, you've probably set up. It's the default when setting up a meeting in Teams or when you use the plugin through Outlook. These are very much like highly collaborative style meetings, right? So you can have everyone can chat, everyone can come off mute, they can present their screen, and it's very sort of a peer collaboration type of meeting. On this type of meeting, you can have a maximum of 250 attendees. The reason for that is, as you might imagine, once you start getting to like hundreds of people on a call, even if there are some great features in standard meetings where you can, be a presenter and set other people to attendee and mute all, but still, it's a lot of people to manage when you have hundreds of people on these meetings, right? So typically, you can have up to 250, but that would be kind of a large meeting. Typically these are meant for like smaller meetings that you're doing a lot of heavy work on. or you could use them for larger meetings up to 250. On the right is really what we're going to be focusing on today. So these are meetings at scale. So with these types of meetings called live events, you can have up to 10,000 attendees, and they're structured a little bit differently, like you noticed today is, right? So instead of, only the production team on our side can chat, can send audio through, and then everyone who's attending is a receiver of the audio. Same with the video stream. So only the production crew on our end can present content, send audio. Everyone on the receiving end, so you all are receiving that audio through a stream, and you can access that stream. You don't need Teams even to access it. You can just access straight on a browser, like I'm sure some of you are doing right now. And these are really more for like larger type meetings, right? So like large all hands events, or maybe you're doing training webinars. They're great for external audiences as well. So if you want to set up a meeting, it's a really easy way, assuming that it's configured this way in your organization, an easy way to broadcast out to a large group of people, a large group of external entities, and then recorded for viewing later. So anyway, so this is the type that we're going to be focusing on today, and that's called live events, and that's really the broadcast capability that's built into Teams and Office 365. So one prereq slide before we get too much farther. If you can't start a live event, this is why. So, we're just listing this. If you have for some reason, if you don't have this enabled within Teams, like as we're going through it today, if it doesn't work this way for you, just know that this is what needs to happen first, right? The administrator basically needs to turn Stream on. Stream is you can think of it as like an internal to Office 365 YouTube. So it's like a video repository tool. Your recordings that you have that you record in Teams are automatically uploaded into Stream. You can trim videos in Stream. It's a nice tool. Think of it as an internal only kind of video tool. And you need that enabled to actually do live events, because even though we're managing this and creating these live events in Teams, and the back end is just from a service perspective, it actually uses Stream to broadcast out. So anyway, so if you don't have this as an option, this is why. Go to IT and ask them to turn it on for you. Okay, so there's really a couple different types of profiles to think of when you think about organizing live events. And we're going to focus the presentation based on the profile today. So we're going to start with really the organizer. So this is the person that schedules the live events. They designate event members. They're really the organizer of the live event. They set it up and sort of get the right people in the mix. Okay, and then you have the producer. The producer is the person who during the live event can actually manages that live event. So they have really full capabilities, full powers within the event. So they can load content up. They can start the presentation when they're ready. They really can do, they can manage the event. They have full capabilities to manage the event. Then there's presenters. So presenters often will be, for if you want to bring in other people into the production team that want to present content, but they have less power to actually start the event and manage the event as the producer does. But these are great both for presenters, and I'd also add here for Q&A. So it's definitely best practice when you're having these events to have at least one person dedicated to answering Q&A throughout, because questions will be just coming in, and it's hard to be what I'm doing right now and then also answering Q&A at the same time. It's too much to do. So anyway, you can bring in a presenter. They'll have less capabilities within the production team, but they can come in, they can present content, and they can present Q&A. And then finally, there's the attendees, right? So you all, you can view the live event, you can post questions and interact with the production team. And then later on, after the event is over, you can record or you can view these recordings at a later date at your convenience. So those are the profiles that we're going to focus on, okay? And the rest of the presentation will be sort of built around that. All right, so let's start with the organizer. So let's say this is you. You just want to start trying it out. Here's where you start. So actually, part of this presentation we're going to be doing in through the PowerPoint, but this part we're actually going to show you in kind of in our demo environment how you set it up. Okay, so here is my Teams. So hopefully you're all familiar with Teams at this point. To start a live event, it's pretty simple. So you go to your calendar button, and you'll notice here you can start a new meeting up top, right? Now, when you set a new meeting, by default, you have new meeting, and then you have all of this. Like this is you know, in that first slide that I presented, this is that standard up to 250 Teams meeting right now. Now, if you want to change that to a live event, all you have to know to do is this little drop down button right here. Click that, and then you'll see new meeting and new live event pop up. So all I have to do is select that new live event. And now the meeting sort of takes a new shape, right? So now you're setting up a live event, and now we have a different screen to work with. So title's still the same, right? So this would be what is presented to all of your attendees when you're setting up the event. So you want to title it something that kind of would make sense for the attendees to know what they've joined. And here, this is an important step right here. So this is now you're thinking about, okay, who's your production crew going to be? And your production crew, kind of back to that last slide with the profiles, these are going to be your other presenters. And if you want to have other producers involved in your team, you can add them here as well. So let's see. So let's add Deborah. Let's say Deborah, I work really closely with Deborah. I really want her, you know, maybe I'm setting it up on her behalf, or I want Deborah to have full like capabilities, be able to do anything that she wants to do. So right now, by default, she's set as a presenter. But let's say I go down here and I can select producer. And now I've just elevated Deborah to be like a co-producer on the event with me. Now let's say I'm going to bring in someone else, Diego. And Diego is going to be helping me with Q&A, but I don't want him to have full producer rights. So he's a presenter right now, and I'm going to leave it that way. So you can have up to, you can actually have a ton of people on the production team. Probably would recommend you keep this under 10 or something, but I don't know, you could have more, but you can have like, you can have a lot. So anyway, however many people you need to be involved in the production team, you can bring them in this way. Just know that it's a little bit different experience. You never want to invite an attendee through this screen. You never want to do that, right? This is just for the production team, but you can bring in as many people as you'd like at the end of the day, or up to like, I think it's like up to 200 or something. Okay, so let's say I have this set. I've got the time set. We're going to do it at 11 today, 11 to 1. One quick note is there's a max on live events to be 4 hours long. So if you have a session for like a full workday, let's say, you'd actually have to set up these in, you have to set up 2 separate sessions. Like, so you'd have to set up like a morning session for 4 hours and then an afternoon session for 4 hours. Once you hit 4 hours, it just sort of stops. So 4 hours is the max. So just know that. And that's from the time that you go live. The 4 hours starts counting down from there. So let's say I want to do this 2-hour time period over lunch today. I could put in some details right about this. This is really a note to the production team on what this is, so that they know. Click next, and here we got some important settings that we want to make sure are configured. So it's worth setting, just taking a second here, and understanding all of these, because it really affect how the meeting works and who can use it and who can join and what capabilities are built into the meeting. So definitely you want to take a second here and just sort of make sure you set it up properly. So first, let's start at the top. Live event permissions. So you see we have 3 different options. Public actually isn't highlighted in my demo tenant. Maybe I should, anyway, maybe I should do that. But typically you'd have people in groups, org-wide, and then you'd have a public option as well. So the people in groups, I don't typically use this one much, but this is just if you want to host a live event only for a certain group of people. That way you can basically, like a standard meeting would, you can basically like ensure that only people that you want to participate come in that are invited ahead of time, and not people that aren't invited ahead of time, right? So you can give, you could type in people's names individually. You can also type in distribution groups here. So like, let's say, or distribution list. So let's say you have, a distribution list of like 1,000 people. It's like a huge distribution list, or maybe bigger. you could add this in here as a distribution list. Then it invites all of them, like, allows them to come in so that they have to authenticate as part of that list. Second is org-wide. So that means that anyone in your tenant and your organization can join this. They just have to sign in first. So one thing to know about this, so like for instance, for us at Microsoft, if I use this setting, that means that anyone at Microsoft can join my live event. But if someone from Dell or Cisco tries to join, they couldn't, right? So would just be for Microsoft attendees or for your organizations, for your organization. The thing to know about this is, one, they'll have to authenticate to join the meeting. So it's not quite as easy to join the meeting because they actually have to go through the authentication process because you're saying you only want people from your organization to attend, right? So there's an extra step involved. And second, they have to have a Teams licenses assigned to join via Teams. So that's an important one. So you wouldn't want to set up a live event for your organization if they haven't been enabled for Teams, for instance. You could do it in different ways, like through Stream. But anyway, the way that we're showing you today, if you choose this option, they'll need to have access to Teams and be able to authenticate in. And then the third type is public. So this is what we're using today. Public is sort of the option of least resistance. It allows anyone to join via a link. So all you do is you send out a URL, then that person can click the URL. It goes to a browser. They can choose to join via Teams, or they can choose to join directly through a URL or directly through the browser. And as you all probably noticed when you signed in today, you can just type in your name, right? So it's relatively anonymous. Like, sure, you can type in your name if you want, but also, if you type in a fake name or something, right, that would show up. So it's anonymous in that sense that anybody who has access to the URL can click the URL, can join. They put in their name, and then they join and can access the content. So this is the option of least resistance. This is what we're using today. If you're doing an external webinar or something like that, that would definitely be the option to pick. And if it's just not as private if it's something that you don't have as much security concerns around, it's an option for just an easy way for people to sign in. Okay. All right. So those are the three options. So you want to make sure you pick that carefully. Next, and the scroll is a big one too. So what catches a lot of people is they don't realize you can scroll down. So there's more than just this initial screen, right? So that's kind of my first tip. Then, okay, how do you produce your live event? So we have a few options here. One, we have the recording available to producers and presenters. I just had this configured a little bit differently in my tenant, but anyway, recording available. So that's automatically going to happen. So basically, how it's configured right now is that whenever we do a live event, it will be recorded. If it was configured differently, I'd have the option to check that off. Okay. Recording available to attendees. So this means that after the meeting, so the same URL that you all used to click to join the meeting today, once we close out, you can come back and click that same URL and watch the recording afterwards. It's a little bit different because we're using an aka.ms link for this today, but if we sent you the actual URL to attendees for this training today, they could click it. If it's live, they can watch it, and then if it's not live, the recording will pop up and they can watch the recording. So this is a really easy way to manage recordings for really large groups, especially for maybe external audiences. If you want to record something but make sure that it's available after the recording as well, that's a really easy, nice way to do it. And this one here trips up a lot of people. So the Q&A, for whatever reason, is turned off by default when you set up live events. If you want Q&A, you have to go in, scroll down, and click the Q&A box. Now, we're all using Q&A in this meeting right here, so I think you can kind of get how that works. But if you don't click the Q&A, then it won't even be an option. So, there's definitely been some scrambles, as we internally sort of learned the tool of setting meetings up and then realizing, whoops, the Q&A wasn't checked, and then having to go back and resend a link, right? So anyway, this is a big one. If you want Q&A, just make sure that you click that ahead of time. Down here, these are kind of more advanced options, I would say. If you have more production needs, higher production needs, you can add external apps or devices. We're not going to spend a ton of time on that today, but I do have a slide or two at the end just to kind of show you the options there. But that's if you wanted more of a high production kind of event with maybe multiple applications or devices that you're using, multiple camera feeds and that kind of thing. And then if you have a support URL as well, so this is kind of handy if you want to direct people who have, click on the help, it'll direct them to a URL of your choosing. So go through, schedule that, take a second, and then you'll see now we have this new meeting set up, right? So this is really the production team view, okay? So this is not sent to attendees. This is just set up for the production team. So myself as the administrator, Diego as the presenter to help me with Q&A, and then Deborah as the producer to help with help manage the event. But you'll notice here I have a few options. So one, I can get the attendee link. So at the end of the day, this is what I need to send to the attendees to have them join. And you can do it a number of different ways, right? You can set up a calendar invite in Outlook, paste that in the calendar invite and fire it off. You can send it over Teams and maybe make an announcement in a channel and send it over Teams. Your choice on how you want to share this with your audience. You can set up a registration page. Actually, what I did with a customer last week is use forms to set up a registration page, and then once someone registered, they got an email automatically with this attendee link to join. So anyway, however you want to set that up is up to you, but just know that at the end of the day, for an attendee to join, really all they need is this link, and you need to just have some way to provide that to them. So you see, again, this is just the production view team. You can see the time here. This is for the production team to join. So this is just, right, again, the production team bridge or meeting. And then if I scroll down, you'll see this live event resources are here. Now it's cool up here. So after a live event, you get a number of reports on Q&A, reports on who joined and when they joined, and then also you can download the recording afterwards as well. You can find all of those after meeting resources right here directly in this production team invite. So that's where you go to find all that stuff after the fact. And then here's again, just okay. So if I click this, then I would jump into the production team view, and we're going to show you that through PowerPoint here in a second. But that's basically the steps. Now this is set up. We've got the attendee link that we need to get to the attendee somehow, and then we have our bridge for us to set up the event. So fast forward to showtime. Let's go ahead and go through the steps on how we would set that up. And I guess I'll stop there. Any questions in the queue, Abby and team?
Nope, you're looking good.
All right, very good. All right, so let's go to the section producer and presenters. Okay, so just showed you same view. So this is the production team here, right? Clicking on that invite, clicking join. And then it looks, so the look and feel for this will be very much like a Teams meeting, and that's because it is. So this is like, when we go back to that first slide that I showed, the Teams meeting up to 250 people, we're basically using that feature for the production crew to manage the event. So you see, this is, what we internally call like the powder room. You can set up, your mute, right? Your video camera feed and your mute, whatever. Hit join now. And here we go. So this is the new this is the live events sort of meeting view for the production team. So me and the team, as I'm presenting this all to you right now, this is the view that I'm looking at. Okay, so just to kind of go through it top to bottom here. Up top, you see we have an indication here that we're pre-live. So that's saying that we haven't actually gone live yet. Here we can see the number of attendees that are joined. So this is so far, and as time goes on through the meeting, that number will pop up or pop down, right? So that's like an interactive real-time thing. This is the amount of time that we've had in the meeting, and this is the title of the production team meeting, okay? Over, just go back down a little bit, over in the queue box. So this is really setting up the content that you want to present next, okay? So kind of go through, yeah, okay. So anyway, so we're going to show you how that looks here in a second, but just know that that's that. And then for the live event, when we're actually live, that box is for a live event. This is the group that are the production team, right? So we've got those 3 people in the team. I'm one of those people I'd be showing, and then I can manage myself through these little buttons down here, like the mute button, the camera button, and I can hit share and mute all over there if I want to. Okay, now let's take over the next few slides, let's look at these items here. So one you can see, if you click on the Q&A button, this is what the Q&A view looks like for us organizers, okay? So you can see you have a couple different options. You can see, one is the Q&A is open and live, so people you all can submit questions to us. So we could turn that off if we wanted to for some reason. We have incoming Q&A here, so that's new items that are popping in from you all in real time. And then we have the live feature, which is what's pushed out to you all, published to you all. Okay, so right now we see that that I said, hey, we'll be starting shortly, and you can start submitting your questions here. So that's what I did. Is I used this little box down here to make an announcement. I hit the airplane. This popped up, and now that announcement is now pushed out to everyone that's attending the meeting. So we sent one of those out earlier to let you know we're getting started at 10:10. Okay, next one over. This little button here, the meeting chat. So this gets a little confusing, but again, think of this whole view as the production team view, right? So this is like separate from what the attendees see. The attendees, wouldn't see this. This is the meeting chat for just the production team. Okay. So this is for us to communicate during the meeting, before the meeting, just to make sure that we're all on the same page and stuff's happening. So like, for instance, right now I'm talking, but if someone on the team wanted to let me know something, then they could put that in as a comment in, and then I could see that without like interrupting me, right? So this is just like in a normal team meeting, you have chat. This is the meeting chat, but just for the production team, not for the attendees, right? So that's what this is. So right now we're typing something in and we're just, seeing if we're ready to go and if we need to prep and stuff like that. And it works just like mini chat. So once you enter, sort of like a standard chat there. Okay, so next let's work on bringing some content in to present. So we do that through this little share button down here. So once you click that share button, you'll see that bottom pane changes, right? So just like in Teams where you can share multiple different things, I have multiple different options to share different things. So I can share my desktop. So if I want to share my screen, I do that here. So right now I am presenting my screen to you all. If I wanted to just present like a PowerPoint, for instance, I could present, I could choose like that PowerPoint and just present that. That would mean that like, if you had like an email banner or something pop up on your screen, the participants wouldn't see that, they would just see the PowerPoint, right? I could also present like a browser if I wanted to do that, or another application. So you have options, whatever's open on your desktop, basically, you have an option to present that or to present the screen. So all you do basically is click one. And once you click it, boom, pops up on the left. So again, the view kind of here is from left to right. So it starts here and then goes right. So I open up sharing, I selected the content. Now the content is here. So great. So now I can present this screen to people. But let's say I also want to do a video feed. Then you see this little button down here. You have 2 different options on how you can set up the view. You have the option by default is selected as just one. And then if I click that second option, you'll see what pops in is my video camera on my device on the side. So I'm actually not using this, in real time with you all right now. But if I was, you'd see not only my slide deck, but you'd also see me talking while we go through the slide deck. All right, cool. Next thing, let's hit send live. So what this does is this will move it from the queue over to the live pane. We won't actually go live with the audience yet, but it'll just move it over, okay? So click send live, and then it's moved over. Now, the meeting won't actually start until we click this button. When you start, that's like when you start the actual meeting, and that's when that 4-hour countdown countdown starts is when you click that and confirm. You'll see that once you click that, pop-up will say, are you sure you want to start the live event now? Once you start it, you can't stop it and you can't restart it. Once you start it, basically that's your, once you start a live event, the countdown starts, you're on, it's live, and the only other option that you have after that is to close it down, right? So just make sure that when you don't start an event before you're ready. So if you set up a bridge ahead of time, and you're testing it around and you're kind of working with the bridge, working with this ahead of time, just make sure you don't start ahead of time, because then you'll come back and you actually won't be able to restart again. Okay, so click this, you click continue, and then you are live. So you see a couple things popped up. One, this little banner up top here popped up, right, saying that the event's in progress. I now have this red live button at the top showing me that we're live. I get an attendee count right next to it, and we're good to go. So everything should be going. And again, and down here is where I'd manage, right, like my mic and video feeds. So like, let's say that Daniela wanted to come off mute, then what she'd have to come down here is click this button right there. She would come off mute. She could jump in and add some commentary, and then when she's done, she'd re-click it and mute herself. So that is basically the organizing tools that are available. So Abby and team, any questions about any of that so far?
Not a lot of questions today. Let's see. For non-Teams attendees to meetings open. Okay, wait. Let me read this one and I'll reword it. Can we send invites via SMS to external users?
That's an interesting question. You could send a text message with the URL to external users. At the end of the day, all they need is the URL, and the experience for live events. It's a really nice experience on a mobile device as well. Like, it's easy to get into live events and to view and watch live events on your phone. You all could try on your phone right now if you're interested. It's pretty much, you just pop it in the browser and it should work. So if you wanted to text out that URL to people, then they could just like click that link from the text and it should open in the browser and they should be good. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like using my mobile phone for live events because it's great. Like, you're not going to come off of mute. It's just for viewing purposes. So it's really, I think it's a great tool on your phone.
Yeah.
But question, Adam.
Yeah, and okay, and then definitely the public option would be easiest. If you want to have people join, that way, you could do it through organization. I mean, we do that internally, but if you just want to make it easy, I guess the public option would be slightly easier for people to do that. There wouldn't be authentication required that way for them. Okay, well, if there's any questions, just let me know. All right, so the final piece here, of course, is the attendee view. Now you're all using this, so it's a little bit different. So I guess you don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but just so you all know, from the attendee view, right? You can, if you have the meeting invite, you could click invite. Like, let's say that I sent out a calendar invite and I included the URL through the Outlook calendar invite, right? This is a separate invite that was sent out, not for the production team. And then I put some details in it here. And then I just put the URL right in there for people to know about it. You click that, joins them over to Teams or the browser. It looks like we're using Teams in this example. This would be great from an organization standpoint, or the browser, as many of you are probably using right now. You can interact with a Q&A, so hopefully you all know about this and are using this as much as you'd like, but right, all you have to do is click that little link over there. And it'll open up live Q&A, and then you can post in questions. One thing to note about questions and how they work is when you submit a question to us, the organizing team, they come in as private, and then we can respond back directly to you without anybody else knowing that it exists. Like, one thing about live events, right, is you have no idea how many people, who else is in the live event. You as an attendee, you don't know who else is in the live event with you. You don't know, what questions they're asking. It's a pretty private experience from an attendee standpoint. But what we can do, and what we've done with a couple of these, so if you go over to your Q&A right now in the publish section, you'll see that, you know, along with our announcements, like me saying that we're starting at 10:10 today, but you'll also see some anonymous questions that were published. So basically what you can do from a production team standpoint is if a question comes in that a lot of other people are asking or that you think is just like great to share with a larger audience, you can publish that up and you'd see that in this same area as well. So anyway, you can interact with Q&A in that way, post a question directly to our team, and of course, you know, watch it. When you're ready to go, you just click that little leave button there, and you're off. So a couple final thoughts. So this, I guess, is going to be kind of a shorter training today. I'm happy to stick around for any questions that you all have, but a couple of final thoughts on production options. There are more robust production options available if you want. These can do things like provide like moderated Q&A. Anyway, you can do. I actually don't use these that much, so I'm not an expert in this, to be honest. But you can plug in other like additional cameras and other capabilities right in there if you wanted a more higher production team. Like studio grade, yeah, high profile events. So anyway, so just know that that's an option. These are some partners that we work pretty closely with that seem popular, like encoders. This is if you wanted to, again, yeah, add encoders for a variety of reasons. Some of them reduce bandwidth within your organization for live events. Others allow for multiple like camera feeds and stuff like that, or compression of audio and video. So kind of how it works is, you know, you schedule it. The presenter uses you basically plug in the encoder or third-party app, you know, while you're producing it. You go live, and then anyway, that's the flow. So I'm not an expert in that, but just know if you're looking for more of that like higher production grade type of solution, live events is that. I just don't typically use it in that way, but if you're interested, there are some great articles online on how to incorporate those capabilities into live events directly. And that's really all we have for you today, folks. I hope it was helpful. So a shorter training today for sure, but please post any questions that you have, and we'll get to them promptly.
Adam, can you go back to the beginning of the presentation and show that slide with the future topics that are coming up? We've got a few questions about up next week.
Sure.
That was fast. Wow.
Yeah, there you go. So that's next week, and we have, I think, another week scheduled out. I just don't have it on this slide. But we are doing these daily, I believe, is the plan for at least the next few weeks. So anyway, so these should be available most days, and these are coming up tomorrow and next week.
Got some good feedback. We do have a question about Teams specifically, so might switch gears just a little bit. So can you talk a little bit about linking already existing SharePoint sites with O365 groups to Teams?
Oh, yeah. So you can.
Yeah.
I'd say that's more of like an advanced kind of thing. So when you set up a team, so here's Teams, right? If you set up a team, create team, you have what's the word? You can either select building a team from scratch or to create from an existing Office 365 group or team. These are really your only two options to create a team. If you have an existing like Office 365 group, you can use this option. My guess is on like if you're using like an older version of SharePoint, like SharePoint 2010 or 2013, it's probably going to be easiest to build a team from scratch. And then once you have a team from scratch, though, what you can do is you can bring in apps, right, and tabs. And one of the options is document library. So what I can do is I can have so think of this team as a brand new team. Everything is, you know, in my new Office 365 group. This is all new, okay? But I can bring in a document library. I just like put in the link for it basically. And then what it'll do is it'll like show a mirror image of that document library as a tab. So let's just see if this works here. So here I have, you know, these documents don't actually reside in this team. They reside in whatever SharePoint site I just selected. But you know, it is an easy way to access files that are on older versions of SharePoint in your team. So just know that if you go this route, that these files, you'll have to actually save them and bring them over like you would, you know, they're in a separate space. So if I like want to start using this, you know, and I want to pull it over to my team, it would take a separate effort to actually like save it back into the files version of this team. This is just a mirror of that old SharePoint site. So anyway, so I think that's probably the easiest way. And those are really the options that are available.
Awesome. Looking good.
Okay, not a lot of questions today. Well, I hope that was helpful. Looks like Shane posted the point drive where this training will be available afterwards, and a lot of the previous trainings that we've done on like Teams fundamentals and intermediate training and smart meetings are available. So also feel free to join that to view the recordings that way. And if there's no other questions, I'll just kind of hang around for another few minutes, but it doesn't look like we really have any Q&A coming in. So just say, you know, thanks for your time. Hope this is helpful, and feel free to reach out with any questions.
Yeah, you just did too good of a job explaining everything. So
yeah, I think that must have been it. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you found it helpful.
Yeah, thanks for the feedback. Appreciate your kind words, guys.